Today we are going to talk about Great Britain. We're going to cover its imports as well as its exports, its technology development throughout history, and their relation to Sweden. We're also going to take you inside the British law systems. But first, we'll introduce some basic facts for you. Great Britain's name speaks for itself. It is a grand state in Western Europe with over 64.5 million inhabitants. It consists of England, Scotland, and Wales, as well as the northern part of Ireland. Solely the country's capital city, London, has 8.4 million citizens. Great Britain has 13 colonies around the world, with a total number of about 200,000 people. The Channel Islands and Isle of Man are directly subordinated to the Crown and is therefore not included as a colony. Great Britain's flag, Union Jack, is a combination of three different flags: England's, Scotland's, and Ireland's. England's contribution to Union Jack was the red Georgian cross with the white bottom. The contribution Scotland brought was the white diagonal Andrea cross on a dark blue base. And at last, Ireland's contribution, a red Andrea cross on a white bottom as well. Union Jack is not the only flag though. Many may not know this, but Great Britain has another three more flags. The red ensign, also called the red duster, which is used by the British Merchant Navy. The blue ensign, which is used by certain organizations or territories associated with the United Kingdom. And at last, the white ensign, which is used on the British Royal Navy ships and their shore establishments. But enough about useless facts. Let's get into the country's economy and law. Over to Stina.
Great Britain is double the size of Sweden and is one of the biggest economies in the world. UK was involved in founding the organization G7, which brings the world's richest countries together. Great Britain has the 11th biggest export in the world. They export around 400 billion pounds every year and has an import of around 600 billion pounds. Great Britain has big assets like oil and natural gas. The country's production is dominated by airplanes, trains, and other motor vehicles, as well as electronic products. The country has a considerable oil industry but is dependent on importing oil to meet their needs. London, which is the capital of Great Britain, is one of the world's main finance centers. A big difference between Great Britain and Sweden is that Great Britain is a bigger country, so they have more imports than Sweden. Examples of big imports in Sweden are oil, cars, electric and telecom products, and the biggest export in UK is cars. That gives a picture that Sweden is an important trading partner. Today Sweden is the 12th most valuable trading partner for Great Britain, but about 40% of the trades are with other European countries like Germany, France and the Netherlands. Back to Victor.
The UK is, but more important was, one of the leading countries when it came to technology development. They have had major theorists like Charles Darwin, Michael Faraday, William Thomson, and Rosalind Franklin. Today, Stephen Hawking is a very influential scientist in the UK. But their probably most notable scientist throughout their history would be Isaac Newton. He is said to be one of the greatest theorists that have ever lived. His theory about laws of motion and illumination of gravity has been seen as keystones of modern science, and has even come to influence some of the major companies that can be found today. There is a famous theory that Apple Inc., also called Apple, who is the most valuable company in the world when it comes to market value only, has gotten both its famous name and logo just from Isaac and his wonder why an apple falls to the ground while the moon falls in what looks like a never-ending orbit around Earth. The scientists mentioned above came to revolutionize the world with their inventions and ideas. Those inventions and ideas eventually led to the Industrial Revolution. The revolution also came to influence Sweden, but the table has turned in many ways. Sweden is now one of the leading countries when it comes to technology and is now more influential towards Great Britain than vice versa. Sweden has extraordinary contracts with some countries. For example, its contract with Qatar, where Sweden is a provider of environmental technology for the Gulf states. But let's go back to one of the scientists, Rosalind Franklin. In 1967, she was acknowledged by Sweden through the Nobel Prize, together with 2 other women. Not that she lived to see it, but still. She died at the age of 37, just before the ceremony was about to take place. The prize is founded by the one and only Alfred Nobel, a Swedish scientist. And now over to Venla, who's going to talk about some jurisprudence.
The United Kingdom does not have one unified way to process when it comes to the court of law. You can say that the country is divided into 3 different regions that consist of England and Wales as one, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and they have all different systems to process court. On the other hand, the amount of common law and other regulation has increased significantly. For instance, the law that includes immigration and asylum are the same, but there are still many differences left. In Sweden, there is only one legal system, and the same rules and conditions are accurate no matter if you find yourself in the southern or northern parts of the country. The way our tribunal works are the same, and the court always proceeds in the same way. When it comes to penalties and age, there is a difference of 5 years between these countries. In all 3 regions of the United Kingdom, the age whether you are able to convict a crime or not is 10 years old. In Sweden, you can get convicted for crimes by the age of 15. When it comes to death penalty, Sweden abolished those type of penalties already in the early days of the
20th century. In June 1921, the law of performing death penalty became accurate. In the UK, the death penalty was abolished years later. By the year of 1964, the last execution took place, but it was still one of the options for sentences until 1971. So judging by these facts mentioned about these two countries, the United Kingdom has been more strict when it comes to the different type of sentences. Nowadays, the main sentences for both countries are quite the same, such as different discharges, fines, community service, and prison. And now, over to Saga.
The United Kingdom has a lot of prisons, but the one I've chosen to talk about today is Althcourse, and it's a very big prison. It has 1,324 prisoners. Well, I don't know about today, but that is how many people they can take in. Like any prison in this world, is their goal to rehabilitate the offenders. But to integrate a person who has spent a lot of time behind bars is not that easy. But unlike Sweden, the UK does not put much effort into the prisoners that comes out. But both countries make it hard for those who have been in jail to get a job because neither the employees in Sweden or UK appreciate a felon. The prison in the UK are very different to those in Sweden. So the most of those who have been locked up does a new crime to get back in jail again. Like I said, Sweden does put a lot of effort into the felons. So they have it pretty good in there. They got a room with a nice bed, TV and other stuff. But in Great Britain, are they locked up in a cell with just one window, very uncomfortable bed, and if they get lucky, they get one real toilet. There are more crimes in Great Britain than there are in Sweden, and the crimes differ between the countries. Now we know a lot more of Great Britain's economy and law. We have learned that Great Britain is a grand state in Western Europe with over 64.5 million inhabitants. We learned that the difference between exports and imports is that Great Britain is a bigger country and is therefore in need of more imports comparing to Sweden. You also got to learn that the two countries are very important trading partners for each other, that the production is dominated by airplanes, trains and electronic products, and that Great Britain's most important assets is oil.
The UK was involved in founding the organization G7, which brings the world's richest countries together. Great Britain is and was one of the leading countries when it came to technology development. They have had major theorists like Charles Darwin, Michael Faraday, William Thomson and Rosalind Franklin. We have also learned that the United Kingdoms have 3 regions with different systems to process when it comes to the court of law. Last but not least, we have learned about how prisons work in Great Britain, that there is actually a difference on how they treat felons. We hope you have got a clearer picture about Great Britain now.